Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Cuzzo here, and on my last video I was asked to do a legend tier list, which honestly, I guess I see everyone do, so why not post one at least for each season, right? I know everyone else on YouTube goes from D to S tier. I will be only going from D tier to A tier, as I just don't see the need for an S tier. A tier will be the most powerful legends in the game, and D tier will be the most underwhelming legends in the game. All the placements are based on utility, power, damage, micro and macro rotational abilities, and will be placed where I believe to be accurate. This may be different from your ginormous Apex YouTuber, but I'm speaking what I feel to be true. If you agree, if you would disagree, let me know about it in the comments. I'm not perfect, this tier list is probably not perfect, but let's go ahead and start it out with the D tier. So what does D tier actually mean? D tier is going to be the legends that are underwhelming. They've been power crept on, and to be honest, need a lot of love in the buff department. First legend in D tier is Lifeline. And I feel like that's not a surprise to everybody. Lifeline has seen so many changes over the course of Apex, but honestly ended up with a poorly balanced kit for today's meta. She did receive some buffs last season with her drone healing infinitely, and care package ultimate cooldown was reduced, but it just wasn't enough for the combat medic. Lifeline's res is mediocre these days, as she has no shield to protect the reviving teammate. Newcastle and other supports outclass her in almost every way. Lifeline needs reworked or buffed, and to be honest, I think it's time to give her res shield back. Either that or allow the health drone to follow people around and heal during combat. I would even be happy if they even reworked her ultimate completely to be more of a team healing ability. Second legend in D tier is going to be Mirage. I know. Everyone loves and has fun with Mirage. Even myself, he's a fun legend to mess with and have fun. Other than that though, it's extremely hard to utilize his kit at higher elo of play. Because if you have a lot of experience in Apex in the game, you usually can out bamboozle a Mirage. I've killed so many Mirages in their ultimates, I can't tell you how many times. But I don't know what it is exactly that Mirage needs to get his day in the sun, but I still think there's things they can do to him to make him better. My idea would be to if somebody shoots your decoy, then that target takes 10% extra damage from your entire team, kind of like a Vantage's mark, or allow Mirage to do an animation and change locations with one of his decoys. Moving on to C tier. So what about C tier? What does C tier actually mean? And C tier legends, in my opinion, still need some buffs, but aren't completely unusable. And first in C tier is going to be Revenant. Revenant is an awesome legend with some awesome lore, and generally I think Revenant is a pretty likable character. All until you start using his ultimate and get third partied, respawn at the totem to have somebody camping it and in shadow form themselves, or simply the timer runs out and you're stuck needing to medkit. I think Revenant's kit could feel a lot better than how it feels now. It's not really rewarding to silence someone, it does a measly 10 damage, and it sort of flashes enemy screens, but in my opinion his tactical should be doing at least 25 damage. I also think his ultimate needs to be reworked so that you feel powerful in shadow form. He needs to have some love, man. He really does. Respawn is aware of the community's frustration with Revenant though, and is determined to do him justice, so I would expect to see some Revenant changes here soon. Second legend in C tier is going to be Rampart for me, and which I'm sure it would spark some controversy with the Rampart mains, as her ultimate is really strong, and even her walls are strong if you have time to set them up. In my opinion, Rampart feels too stationary. Even after they made her walls come up quicker, they still don't feel quick enough to me. Also, it doesn't help that her passive is tied to LMGs, which in my opinion is a weapon class that needs to be looked at again. The Spitfire is literally mid now after nerfs, and Rampage is horrible and has crappy time to kill. Devotion is only good with a turbo and all the attachments, and well, the L-Star doesn't get much use besides holding that gold energy mag you found earlier on the map. But moving on to B tier, and what exactly does B tier mean, you say? These legends are all very well rounded and balanced, viable in most situations in the game. First up in B tier is gonna be Fusey. Fuse has actually exploded into the competitive scene recently as pros use his damage-centered abilities to pressure and flush opposing teams out of cover. Fuse has become a very good legend, and if mastered has the ability to devastate opponents. A good Fuse is really difficult to handle, and I think for the first time in a while, Fusey is actually a B tier, well-rounded offensive assault legend. Second in B tier is my main man, Crypto. Crypto's kit isn't an easy pickup by any means, but he still holds a competitive pick rate in professional Apex. Crypto is the Beacon King and really the only recon legend to play if you're playing hard zone. His ult devastates teams and has a great entry ability into a fight. With a coordinated 3-stack, Crypto is A tier. Moving on to my third legend in B tier, which is going to be Pathfinder. Even though this legend doesn't have a passive ability, Pathfinder's grapple is easily one of the best abilities in the game, allowing you to engage and disengage extremely quick. His ultimate zipline is also an A tier micro-rotational ability and honestly shouldn't be slept on. The second Path gets a proper passive is the second he becomes an A tier legend. But moving on to fourth on the list is the Edgelord himself, Dr. Caustic, as Watson would say. This defensive legend is arguably the best for hunkering down and denying your opponent's area. Caustic thrives on a passive-aggressive playstyle and also playing hard zone for endgame. If you take the time to master Caustic's playstyle, you will be an asset for your team always. But anyways, moving on to our fifth legend in B tier, which is going to be Vantage. Vantage is probably the most balanced legend to ever come into the games. Her passive allows for LOS, line of sight scans, that gives you all three opponents' armor levels and legend types. She has a movement tactical to get incredibly devastating off angles, and an ultimate to make sure that those off angles pack a punch. She is probably better towards early game, but having a nasty sniper on your team is always ideal. Moving on to sixth, we have Bangalore, the middle of the pack legend, right? Bangalore has barely been touched over the years as her kit proves to be useful in most scenarios, even with the scan legends, although I do disagree with Vantage's passive completely negating her smoke and seeing exactly where she is. Please respawn. Nerf that about Vantage. That is the one thing that is very frustrating. Having Vantage be able to just scan through a smoke and see exactly where a Bangalore is and sniper is a little overpowered in my opinion. Big L for the Bangalore mains, but you know. Anyways, you know, her ultimate allows also incredibly quick pushes or can be used defensively to take a step back. You really can't go wrong with Bangalore though if you use her correctly. Her smoke can block off different angles from third parties, and really she's just an all-around solid legend. Moving on to seventh, Loba seems to be the legend of this most recent update, since her heirloom did come into the game recently. Loba provides honestly incredible utility for her team. Ammo, heals, and shield swaps are extremely important early and late game. Her tactical allows for some amazing clutch plays and off-angle picks. Loba mains usually spend too much time looting, and Loba can almost be a hindrance to newer players, as her kit kind of promotes looting and not fighting. Even with that being said though, a skilled Loba should be feared. Number 8 in B tier, Maggie. Maggie has broken her way into the competitive scene lately, and her kit revolves around, well, W-keying. A good Maggie will most likely make you feel extremely uncomfortable wherever you're posting up, and in no time you may find yourself taking a 101 PK shot to the head. Combining Maggie with other legends that will help Maggie push is ideal, and to be honest, she may not make it to A tier, but Raingay, and the reason I think she's not in A tier, well, Rainday Gaming, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, he's on YouTube, he's a great Apex caster. Rainday pointed out that the other day that the pros like utility at a distance. Maggie isn't like that. She's all about the push. Even though that may be the case, Maggie's still a force to be reckoned with, especially in the hands of a professional player. B tier for me. Finally, A tier. The most powerful legends in the game, in my opinion. And before I start, I want to say that any of these legends can move. Any of these legends, not just A tier. I'm talking any of these legends that I have previously mentioned can move up or down on this list, really, depending on the player who's controlling the kit. Moving on to A tier, the legends that are most powerful in the best players' hands. First up is Valkyrie. Even with her nerfs coming into Season 14, Valkyrie still remains at the top of the pack. Her passive jetpacks are extremely useful, allowing you to take height immediately, a tactical that damages and stuns, along with a portable jump tower as her ultimate, plus wall hacks. I think Valkyrie will remain at the top just purely based off her ultimate ability. She allows her team to make a macro rotation, even in the worst possible positioning, and remains to be a giant cornerstone for professional team compositions. And second in A tier is going to be Gibraltar. Which I don't think surprises many people. Even with Maggie and Crypto hard countering his otherwise invincible bubble, Gibby is an absolute beast with an extra 50 health almost every time you ADS, not to mention his oh fuck ultimate that sends bombs down on an area at a pretty quick rate. Gibraltar is the backbone of the defensive legend lineup and proves to still be extremely viable in Season 14. You can't go wrong with Gibby. Third up is Octane. Movement in Apex usually pays off, especially if you've reached a level of mastery. Add Octane's stem to that mastery and it's uncharted. The amount of ankle replacements in the Outlands must be ridiculous because trying to fight a good Octane is extremely difficult and you're liable to end up back in the lobby not even knowing how you got there. Fourth in A tier is Horizon. This legend received some nerfs recently, but that didn't even touch her pick rate. Horizon has the ability to take height when there isn't any height to be had. She's incredibly slippery with her passive, allowing to negate stun from jumping off height, and in more in-air directional control. Her ultimate also creates chaos and visual clutter, allowing for her team to quickly clean up the poor souls getting sucked. Her ultimate has a bit more nuance now and actually needs to be thought out a bit more since the nerfs to Newt's hitbox and such, but that doesn't change much to be honest. Fifth in A tier is Seer. Seer broke out into the competitive scene just recently and was on nobody's radar before a player called His Watson realized how good he actually is. An insane passive with wall hacks, a tactical that's a skill shot but lasts twice as long as Bloodhound's can, and while his ult just speaks for itself. He is a wall hack legend and of course he makes his way to A tier. He is expecting to get some nerfs come Season 15, probably after they release his heirloom. You know how Respawn operates. Sixth in A tier is Bloodhound, Seer's rival. Bloodhound will remain A tier for the entirety of Apex's lifespan in my opinion, and whether or not you think his scans are OP, it doesn't matter because he's here to stay. Bloodhound provides a ton of information, and the best part about his kit is that it's so user friendly. He can fall short in certain scenarios, but in his ultimate he can seem unstoppable with scans every 4 seconds. Bloodhound is all around solid. Seventh in A tier, might be a controversial one, but I'm going to say it anyways. Watson deserves A tier in my mind. Watson is a legend that you can't just pick up and be a god with. Watson has a skill gap, and if mastered, is one of the best defensive legends in the game. Along with a small hitbox, she has an ult that stops any grenades or bombardments coming your way. Carrying ult excels mean you'll always have an ult for a fight, and is honestly unmatched in angering a team if played at a predator level. Next up we have Wraith. Wraith has fallen off the map a bit in the past couple of seasons, and even in competitive, but in my opinion Wraith is still very much one of the best, and her evasive movement and ability to scout is unmatched. Her portal allows for absolutely clutch micro-rotations or insane revives and resets. Her portal is also useful in in-game circles as you can cheese ring damage briefly. Next up on A tier is Newcastle. Newcastle received some buffs going into Season 14 and absolutely is a beast this season. He almost is replacing Gibraltar as the defensive front on people's teams. The mobile tactical shield gives you amazing ways to outplay your enemies with cover, push across open fields, and then the ult you can fly to a down teammate and provide cover, and a sick passive res. Newcastle has it all, and Lifeline is jealous AF. Next, after Newcastle, and this might be controversial, and I almost put her in B tier, but I really do think that Ashe is an A tier legend. The ult and the tactical are very good abilities. You can't say they're not, and I think people underestimate the utility of the defensive ability that Ashe has. So I'm placing Ashe in A tier. She could easily be B. She probably does need some love, but seriously, everyone who's taken the time to watch my videos, it means the absolute world to me. I never thought I'd actually acquire some following on YouTube, and low-key, all of you who sub are making my dream come true. I'm an incredibly passionate gamer, and will always try to relay anything I've learned in-game to you guys and girls. Don't forget to sub and go tweet me in some craziness over on Twitter at Cuzzoh, Cuzzohh, and remain teachable, remain focused, and always have fun. Cuzzoh out.